Hello, hello. We are live now. What's going on, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. See who's in the chat. Stuff's a little updating a little slow. Good day, everybody. Welcome to Dungeoneer's Pack Live. My name is Josh. Thank you guys for tuning in. Dungeoneer's Pack Live is a weekly live stream where I and guests discuss topics for D&D 5th edition to provide some insight and solutions for problems that you have at your table. And this week, we're going to be talking about the flavor, the character fantasy, the narrative behind Matt Mercer's Blood Hunter that's been featured on Critical Role, and how to use it or change some of the flavor and narrative so they can fit into your setting and for your games. So joining me this week are no strangers to the Blood Hunter. We've all done various content. Last week I put up a character build. Wally has a character build for it, and then Riker literally just this morning did a full flavor breakdown of the Blood Hunter. So joining me today, Wally DM and Riker, TheClericCorner. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thank you. It may or may not have been your fault that I posted that video today.
No,
yeah, that was a strange coincidence. If it was just like, just released today.
Really good timing.
Yeah, just perfect timing.
How convenient.
Yeah, super convenient, but super awesome. Have all these
I
resources.
just really wanted to participate.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. All right. If you guys have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll pull them up so you guys can see them on the screen. So we're gonna kick this off. So, in your guys' opinion, what draws people to the Blood Hunter? And do you guys feel that is it mainly the draw because it's Matt Mercer's name and Critical Role are behind it, or does it have the weight to stand on its own compared to the other 5th edition class, the official one?
I'll let Wally take this one first.
Okay. I'm actually going to take this from a non-Critical Role point of view. And I will be upfront right away. I have not watched a lot of Critical Role, and by saying I have not watched a lot of it, I probably have a total of 12 episodes under my belt, and that includes seasons 1, 2, and 3. I think I'm through like the 6th episode of season 3. I do mean to go back to it, but that's not to say that I don't love Matt Mercer as a DM. I really do like his work. I love Vox Machina. I love Force Grey was one of my favorite series that he did, and I even like the Red Nose Day he did with Stephen Colbert. So Matt Mercer's really, really awesome and good. So my perspective on the Blood Hunter today is going to come from someone that just loves to play Dungeons and Dragons, and I can't attest to the popularity of the Blood Hunter being through Critical Role or Matt Mercer, but more along the line of it just being something different. When I was playing a lot of basic edition Dungeons and Dragons way back when, I picked up a copy of the first edition AD&D book, and in it had different classes. It had the illusionist, it had the thief acrobat, it had the barbarian, the cavalier, and just having new classes in general, I think, is a way to spurn popularity of something, pretty much like the Artificer of Eberron. We had our base classes, and then all of a sudden, now we can play an Artificer. And I think there's going to be a natural draw to a class when it's new and it's something different, especially for folks that have played a lot of games like, oh, cool, I'm going to check this out. And then if they have fun with that class, then they're going to start telling people like, yeah, I played this class. It was a lot of fun. I like these abilities. I like that. You're going to get Reddit threads that are started, and you're going to get people in Facebook groups. The social media is going to explode one way or the other, whether it's good or not. So I think a lot of the influence of the Blood Hunter is going to be just from it's a new class, so it's something different to play, and it really is different with the mechanics and stuff. It's unlike any of the other classes for sure. And then B, just the word of mouth and the social media and everything that gets it going.
What about you, Riker?
Yeah, goodness. I feel like the popularity absolutely has a lot to do with it. When it comes to like homebrew and non-official stuff, I personally enjoy that personal touch or knowing the creator, because we do the same thing with like books or movies, right? Where we find a director that we really, really like and we like his work. So we generally enjoy or support all of his movies. We find an author that puts out a lot of books like Brandon Sanderson, right? Maybe not every book is a slam dunk, but because you love his work, you're a big fan of everything that he puts out, essentially. So, like, when it comes to Matthew Mercer, I feel like there is a big fan base. and me being one of them, that because we like the creator, we love the stuff and support the stuff that they put out. To call out Indestructible, a fellow YouTuber, right? He's put out a bunch of stuff for his homebrews.
Yep.
And there is so much homebrews out there that I would probably gravitate to his more because I admire who he is and what he does, and I know him almost personally. And so, yeah, I feel like Critical Role's Blood Hunter, to me, started because I enjoyed Matthew Mercer and what he's done. The class itself, I actually really do enjoy because it's almost a gothic horror, and I mentioned this in my video this morning, but it's a gothic horror that to me is not yet well portrayed in D&D 5e, or at least elements of it.
Yeah, and yeah, you guys both bring up good points because it is the fact that it is something new. It plays completely different. It runs some of the design choices. I'm not necessarily a fan of. I'll be upfront for people to understand. I'm not really a big fan of Blood Hunter, but some of the design choices are very, very different compared to other 5th edition classes. I think what draws people in there on a mechanical level is that you have a lot of choices from the get-go. So there's a feeling of customizability that some people feel is lacking in 5th edition. I think the closest thing you're going to get on that level is the Warlock, and even then compared to the Blood Hunter. So the Warlock doesn't have as many choices that the Blood Hunter gets. And then Riker, you brought up the fact that it fits in this gothic horror narrative role that is severely lacking in 5th edition. The taking on of dark power for at a personal cost, pretty much this dark hero trope is really missing. The Warlock kind of feels this. Some Paladin subclasses kind of fit this if you flavor it a certain way, but there's actually no cost associated with it. You're just using bad power and because you can. And Blood Hunter really takes on that. I'm using this dark powers, but it's costing me my real life resources in the form of HP in the Blood Hunter's case. So there's a lot of little interesting things that I get why people are drawn to this on a mechanical and narrative level. But Matt Mercer and Critical Role is the elephant in the room, right? With this class, it's just popular because of the name attached to it. Doesn't mean that it's good or bad. It's just what it is. They're as close to official D&D as you can kind of get without having wizards slapping their logo on it. So yeah. All right, and we actually go for it, Riley.
Oh yeah, I was going to just read from your chat there.
Yeah.
It was one of the things I was thinking of as well. Dreaming KW mentioned this being on D&D Beyond, which is a fantastic point because there are a lot of subclasses out there. I think Riker, you had mentioned Indestructible's YouTube channel. He does a lot of homebrew classes and subclasses and stuff, and there's a lot of folks out there that do, a lot of YouTubers, a lot of folks that write. But the big difference between Matt Mercer's, of course, with Matt Mercer being so famous, that helps as well, but his class is also on D&D Beyond, and a lot more folks are tuning into D&D Beyond as where they're going to have their character builds and stuff. So like Dreaming said in the chat there, that is going to be a huge way for people to try it. Be like, oh, I turn on Critical Role stuff, and now I see the Blood Hunter. What's this all about? And then check into it. And then one other thing that I thought of too, and definitely correct me on if I'm wrong, because this is 2 years ago and my memory is not that good, but I think I remember this was a revision in 22. Matt Mercer revised the Blood Hunter from something previous, but I also think that in the initial push of it, it might have been set up as a charity organization to benefit the Australian wildfires. Because I remember picking up the PDF on a whim. And I could be wrong. Maybe somebody in the chat knows, but I think that Matt put that out there for like a month, and if you bought it off of D&D Beyond or wherever it's at, that would also be a charitable organization to the wildfires of Australia. That was early 2020, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was the whole class that he put it out so that if you did, because it's pay what you want on DM's Guild, I believe, and yeah, and whatever you did pay would attribute to the wildfires in Australia. I believe it was supposed to be a class that Vin Diesel was playing in a one shot they did. I think this is what kicked it off. Vin Diesel was promoting The Last Witch Hunter, I think, something like that. Some movie that I'm pretty sure none of us really saw. If it's not Fast and Furious, I'm sorry, Vin Diesel. So, but yeah, it started off as that, and then Mercer fell in love with The Witcher, and The Witcher 3 was out, and everything just spiraled into this, which is where you can see a lot in the mechanics of the class. There is so a lot of Witcher inspiration from there. And then we have our first question from the chat. Let me pull it up. This is from Knowing Ape OW. Which order of the Blood Hunter is best in each of your opinion? And then I'm going to switch screens. Oh, not that screen. A sec. I do have. Give me a sec. I was gonna be able to pull up, but I can't do that right now. Okay. So yeah, what Blood Hunter do you guys feel is?
I'm gonna say the most powerful, I think, is the Order of the Lycan. I'm not going to be able to spout statistics because it's been a while, but I really, when I did the character build for that, I really believe it's strong and probably the strongest out of the four. But now, which one would I play if given the chance? I really like the Order of the Ghost Slayer. I like the flavor of that subclass. That would be my choice. But if you're going for most powerful, I'm going to vote for the Lycan.
I would probably have to agree. Again, yeah, I don't think either of us are. What are they called? The metagaming build the best and strongest character kind of channels.
Optimizers.
Yeah, there you go. Optimizers. But yeah, I think the Lycan is super strong. Ghost Slayer is what I've played most recent. And I had such a blast playing Ghost Slayer, especially playing with the ethereal realm and being able to fight creatures that don't have blood either.
Yeah.
And if you guys do want to see like the Order of the Lycan in play, Travis Willingham from Critical Role is playing one right now. So little spoilers there, I guess, if you haven't seen it already.
Yeah. Personally, I have like two answers. Mechanically, I think Order of the Ghost Slayer plays more with and interacts more with the class's toolkit, which I enjoy. I think it's just to be a lot more seamless. So when you're using your Crimson Right and a lot of those features, the Order of the Ghost Slayer does that, and on top of being able to actually affect creature types that aren't necessarily affected by your class features, which is a big boon. So you can actually go after constructs and undead, which you can't really do with the other ones. The most evocative, and because I can't break down the numbers I'm not a numbers guy, so sorry if you guys are watching my builds and I'm not optimizing for you guys, but numbers are over my head a lot. But Order of the Lycan is probably the most evocative. You're transforming into a werewolf and fighting as a werewolf. Playing it right, you get at least 3 attacks, which just feels cool. Whether it's strong or not, because they're only D6s, unless you're mixing it up with a weapon in the combat rotation after level 5. But you're turning into a werewolf. Like that sounds cool. The only problem I see mechanically with it is that none of the features that turn you into a werewolf really play with your class features. So you kind of have like a system stacked on top of a system, which some people like. I'm not a fan of. I like stuff that kind of bleeds into each other and are supportive. And then also your fighting style does not matter with your Order of the Lycan subclass, because in order to get your extra attack as a bonus action, you have to have an unarmed strike. So you can't really use a weapon or any of your fighting styles, because they don't even get defense, which would have been like the go-to of just, I just need a good baseline fighting style. And since Blood Hunters don't get that, well, you get a fighting style that you're not really going to be using. So some things to keep in mind. That's what I found out when I was actually building for the build I put up last week for the Blood Hunter. Was wow, like people really, really like turning into a werewolf, but you don't really get benefits from your class kit to it. Still good, still fun.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think there are complaints with every class.
Yeah.
Whether or not there's more in this class than others is debatable. I think people like it solely because the only option
Yeah.
to be a lycan or to be a lycanthrope or a werewolf type creature. I mean, you have the beast barbarian where you're like, and I don't know why Wizards did this, but they're like, oh, you can be like a little bit like
Yeah.
a werewolf. You know, you could be like, you could have like the claws and the teeth of one.
Yeah.
You're like, no, why can't I just turn into one? So this is to me is the closest thing that you can get.
Yeah.
And I enjoy like because again, you don't have to be a werewolf. There's were-ravens, there's were-tigers and other things that you can be as well.
Yeah. And yeah, this is like you're a definitive were lycan person, while the beast barbarian, which is going to have its most the most closest official class that's very, very similar, or subclass. You're just kind of I turn into a monster when I rage. So they left it very, very open flavor for it. So like if you want to be the Hulk, okay, you can be the Hulk. If you want to be the lizard, you can be the lizard. But if you want to be a werewolf, oh, you kind of have that option there too, while still kind of just confining it to the barbarian. Well, this is like, no, you're a werewolf. You're a were rat. You're a were whatever you want to be. Which is interesting. I like the fact they went full on in. But at the same time, it does come at the cost of some synergy between its core class. So those are just little things to keep in mind. I think that's my bigger mechanical complaint with the Blood Hunter. Outside of Ghost Slayer, the Order of the Ghost Slayer, where it just is like chef's kiss, everything's just in tune. The rest of the subclasses, like it's another system that can probably support a whole other class. If you really look at it, stacked on top of it.
Yep.
So, let's see. Oh, Rich Mary, what's going on? Rich has a question. Do you think the Lycan clashes with Druid's wild shape ability? What do you guys feel?
I like this question. Well, I mean, I saw that question and I pulled up the hybrid transformation. It looks wording wise that it might be up to you and your DM, but because here's what it says. It says as a bonus action, you transform into a special hybrid form for up to 1 hour, right? Whether those forms stack with the Druid wild shape, that I don't know. But it says you can speak, use equipment, and wear armor while in this form. But if you're already wild shaped, then it wouldn't matter. And then you can revert to a normal form as a bonus action. So it seems like your normal form would be the form that you would be previously. So if you revert from that form, you revert from both forms? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Pulling it up. Wish I can pull it up for you guys in the chat. Sorry, having some little tech issues. Let's see.
I kind of read the question as clashes with the druids, like maybe taking a special feature away from a druid that might have been, that's maybe unique to the druid.
I was thinking multi-class, but that's a good point too.
It very well could be. That's just the way that I read it, and I would probably, in that vein, I would say it wouldn't. It just seems like the abilities of the Order of the Lycan are just. I mean, they're honed into what the subclass is wanting to do, as opposed to a wild shape, where I think you have abilities and skills that you can use to adapt to different scenarios or whatever. And I think what it would clash most with is the shifter race.
Yeah.
Because you have that race of shifters where you can actually have like an animal-like hybrid form. So I think the best way to solve everything is to multi-class and be a shifter race, Order of the Lycan druid, and then you got your bases covered.
Yes.
Throwing a couple levels in a barbarian, and then you're good to go.
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, because I do think that the transformation into a wolf-like creature is more flavor text anyways, where it just becomes more of a transformation to like make your claws really sharp and your give you bloodlust and things like that. But with the druid, you're actually changing into something, and all of your mechanics change. Where in this case, you're still fighting, you're still a warrior, you're still kind of have all the base mechanics of your class.
Yeah. Looking at it mechanical wise, these stack. Narrative wise, like we mentioned, like 4 different options that all kind of just bleed into each other. This helps.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah, it reinforces what maybe like you want to play a shifter that's a blood hunter. It kind of makes a lot of sense. instead of you're not really like you can change the narrative of the Blood Hunter for in the case of a shifter is that you're not necessarily taking on a dark powers. It literally you're just unleashing your inner animal. And
I want to play a squirrel girl shifter now. Transform into a squirrel druid, and then be then rabid form that squirrel with my Blood Hunter.
And it's kind of like, okay, say hypothetically in a White Room scenario, you take a Blood Hunter Lycan, you're a Beast Barbarian, you're a Druid, and then you're a Shifter. It's kind of like you're going Super Saiyan every step of the way when you're transforming. So probably won't play well, but mechanically, I think at least in a Druid Blood Hunter multi-class situation, you could turn into your wild shape form, and then you can buff it up with your hybrid transformation. Just get
that's really actually feral. Something you said so true. Actually, so in my experience playing this this class, it's very much a power up class.
Yeah,
meaning that usually as long as the combat goes, or the longer the combat goes, you get stronger and stronger. Like I played a Ghost Slayer ASMR, and every turn I would do one thing and then power up myself with another thing and power up myself with another thing. And it's just a really cool narrative. Obviously it depends on like the class and the race that you pick and things like that. But it's a really cool narrative that like as you continue on, you get stronger and stronger with like rights and brands, castigation, things like that. It's cool.
We have a build question from Knowing Ape. For Curse of Strahd campaign, I'm going to play a Blood Hunter Ranger multi-class. Would you have any suggestions for this build? I can tell you what I was thinking. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I can start it off if you guys need some time to think.
Go for it.
Okay.
Does Strahd have blood?
Curse of Strahd. Narratively, these fit. The Blood Hunter, I feel, narratively is an offshoot of a Ranger. If you really were to break down what the Blood Hunter wants to do, it's pretty much a Monster Hunter Ranger, right? That's narratively, that's like the core of the Blood Hunter class. Mechanically, you're going to run into an issue of bonus action glut. You're going to have too many bonus action options. So that's a big thing you're going to need to be concerned about of not being able to stack all your stuff, or it's going to take you a very, very long time to stack your stuff, where you can get all this big bonus damage and do all these crazy things. But by the time you kind of get that, your combat's probably going to be done. So don't go in there thinking you're going to be just like, I'm going to be rolling like 50 D6s because I got all these special bonuses by level. Why by the third turn, it's like, well, combat, depending on the situation, boss fights, you're going to be a monster. Little skirmish fights where you're fighting goblins and undead and stuff. By the time you get that up, your team's probably going to wipe the floor with them. I would suggest heavily taking the Ranger subclass features or the class features alternates from Tasha's, especially the one that acts as a replacement for Hunter's Mark. And the reason for that is because it doesn't use your bonus action. So it's just a free D4 that upgrades as you level. And then depending on your Blood Hunter options, that if that's going to be your primary class, lean into that more. And just kind of use your rangery stuff to kind of supplement that. That's my direction I would go, just because bonus actions for both of those classes is really, really taxes a player, and you can kind of get a decision paralysis on what you need to do.
Gosh, you really don't like the Blood Hunter, huh?
It's not that. It's just there's just certain design choices that I'm like, okay, here's this thing, and you're doing the same thing this other class that has issues fundamentally are. It's like, just don't follow it. Like,
I wonder if anyone's done like a Blood Hunter fix. You know, like they've done like monk fixes or ranger fixes. If they've done that, I'd be curious to know what they've done.
Indestructible Boy has a Blood Hunter fix that actually puts it as a subclass of the Ranger.
Oh,
I bet he's kind of working on it. He's previewed. And I believe also is going to sort of get away from the self-harm and the self-harm aspect of the class, which we'll get into in just a second. All right. You guys have an answer for their question?
Yeah, see, if I was to be playing in a Curse of Strahd game, I would probably go more on theme. I mean, the Ghost Slayer would probably be better one because I think it has a lot of abilities that go against undead.
Yep.
So I think that would probably be the more optimal choice. But I'd probably then revert back to the Order of the Lycan because I haven't played all the way through Curse of Strahd, but what I have played through, I know there's like a lot of wolves, and there's even a couple of hunters, I believe, a couple of wolf hunters that you meet at some point in Curse of Strahd. So I think it'd be cool to be in Order of the Lycan, maybe team up with those those wolf hunters. So thematically, I like the Order of the Lycan, but yeah, if I were to go in playing Curse of Strahd, I would probably also go with the Ghost Slayer just because of the undead. And then I'm not sure which ranger selection I would make. That's a really good question. Maybe um I don't know. That's a tough one for me. I would have to when I do my character builds. It's usually not within 2.5 minutes on a live stream. It usually takes me like weeks to come up with this, and I do plan in advance too. I'll like map it out all my ability score increases and stuff, and I'm like swapping things through. So yeah, I'd have to put some thought into that.
I think a couple other ones that we haven't even mentioned so far is the Mutant subclass and the Profane Soul subclass for the Blood Hunter, and I think both of those are really cool thematically. One, the Mutant being more of your alchemical witcher, where you're taking substances and gaining boons and detriments in the process, but then also the Profane Soul, which is almost like your fighter warlock. It's like if your Hexblade was more of a fighter instead of a spellcaster. I think it would be just kind of fun to be a Profane Soul where you have a pact with Strahd. It would be might be a fun element there if you wanted to be more tied into the BBEG or the story. And I think Gloomstalker would just be a good one just because it's in the Shadowfell.
Yeah.
But I mean, it also could be fun to like have a swarm of mosquitoes, be a swarm keeper, and like flavor that to be more blood-like. Heck, your swarm could just be blood, instead of an actual creature. But so I think that would be fun. Or what am I thinking? Bats.
Yeah, I was
Just
about
be
to say
bats. Be a
bats.
profane. Yeah, be a profane soul.
Swarm.
Profane soul swarm keeper ranger. Yep.
Throwing Dampier in there into that mix too, and you pretty much got a little vampiric knight. That'd be pretty sweet.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What I was thinking too. I think my train of thought already left on this. If I remember, I'll get back to it. You said something that clicked, and it just fleeted. It just went away. I'm getting old.
Sorry.
All right. I want to jump into the next question, and which is talking a little bit more about the narrative and the tropes of the class. We'll start off with you, Riker, for this one. What do you find that is the obvious and or less obvious narratives for character fantasies or tropes of the class?
Well, Josh, I made an entire 10-minute video this morning about this. But I do think that it does very much lean into the Witcher vibe. If you have seen the video or the movie with Vin Diesel, I think it's The Last Witch Hunter, right? That's what it was called, The Last Witch Hunter. Very much based on that. I do feel like it is that monster hunter type ranger, the monster within, the fighting fire with fire when becoming monster yourself. Again, very gothic horror. But I think one of the funnest ones that I kind of looked at was, bear mechanics. It's essentially just a manipulator on the battlefield, right? It's also a support class along with being a damage dealer. And so with your curses, you manipulate people, you cause them disadvantage, you slow them down, you stop them in their tracks and things like that. I think it would be really fun to play a bard blood hunter where you are causing rights onto your guitar and shredding lightning at your opponents, while at the same time you are manipulating through your magic and charming them into doing other things. And that's just kind of how my brain works. But I feel like a lot of people do still lean into the gothic horror elements of it.
Yes.
What about you, Wally?
Yeah, so this question was a little bit tough for me, and until I watched Riker's video, then it helped out quite a bit. But I would have to say that yeah, the obvious is it does look to be like The Witcher, which I really enjoyed the series. It was, and now reflecting back on that, I can definitely see the connection. And as far as like some less objectives, I'm sure they're going to pop up through here. I would suggest watching Riker's video.
Yeah.
I like the voodoo idea, where the voodoo doll idea, and I like the jinx or the bad luck idea. I think both of those would be a lot of fun. But I'm going to pass on the rest of this question though.
Yeah. There isn't really anything that I find that's like not as obvious. It's pretty much strong as you both were saying on this Witcher sort of dark hero using dark powers at a personal cost. I think the only narrative that does get lost is like that personal cost. What does that mean to your character? People are just like, well, I'm just going to use my health points and I do cool dark stuff. But I think there's a lot of untapped potential for what it means to have that personal cost. What does that affect on your character? And is it something that they're trying to get rid of? Maybe they didn't want to be a blood hunter. Maybe they're kind of, this was sort of some sort of thing that was kind of forced onto them. And they're trying to find a ways to get out because they don't want to pretty much don't want to hurt themselves anymore. Trying to overcome, and eventually that can be a narrative that they play out through the game.
One thing that I have played with instead of just taking hit points is just like getting rid of a hit die and roll and like doing that. Just kind of like just getting rid of your vitality instead.
Yeah.
Is one option because at the end of the day, it's blood magic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we're gonna get into the self-harm aspect because it is a very integral to the class, and it's not something that everybody is comfortable having at their table. So, and some people still want to play the Blood Hunter, but they don't want this aspect. So we're getting to it right now. But Rich has a question, the obligatory Spelljammer question. How would a Blood Hunter fit into the Spelljammer campaign?
Oh.
Let's see. You guys need time?
Yes, sir.
Let's see. My answer: Profane Soul, Blood Hunter, Great Old One as your pack. And they're having you pretty much travel, or even celestial, either one, depending on whether you want to be good or bad. Or you can do undead if you want to do the Githyanki. I think it's Githyanki, or it's one of the Gith. I can't remember. I want to say it's Githyanki or Githzerai. One of the ones that has their main Gith leader is a Lich, and you can be one of her pretty much chosen champions that are kind of sent out to go fight Illithid mind flayers. That'd be another way to do it. And or Great Old One, you might be a mind flayer in disguise. That'd be another way to flavor it.
I think. Sorry, Wally, you had it.
I'm still stumbling on this. It kind of gives me. I think it'd be kind of fun. Kind of like a Guardians of the Galaxies vibe. Just get a team of blood hunters and travel, through space and stuff like that. But my initial thought immediately goes to Illithids as well. I think that'd be interesting. I've never played in a Spelljammer campaign before, but I think this class would definitely fit right in with it.
My mind goes to the mutant, because I think one cool sentence is mutagens are designed for the specific biology of a character who concocted them. Just it's you're playing with biology, and when I think space, I think a lot of different creatures, a lot of different blood types. So I can see like a mutant blood hunter collecting and using the blood of different kinds of species to power their magic, and that coming up with different effects, obviously. I think that would be super fun to use. But yeah, I think the Illithids are so key to that but there isn't really like a psychic or a mental subclass as far as the Blood Hunter goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the closer you're going to get really is going to be Profane Soul if you go Great Old One, because there are some psionic-based features that the Great Old One is tied to. Just trying to see, but I'm not sure if you're just going to get access to. I think you're going to need to really double down on that. Probably take a couple features like telekinesis or telepathy to really dive into that as feats. and then find other ways to kind of get in on the psionic aspect of the Mind Flayer. If you want to play like a Blood Hunter that's tied to Mind Flayers, hey, that'd actually be a pretty sweet subclass completely. Yeah.
That would be. That would be.
I think you hit it with the Gith. Don't they get Githzerai or Gith Yankee? Don't they get some type of telepathic powers or first level for the race?
Yep.
Struggling to remember. Yeah, I think you nailed it there. That would definitely be a good one. Or you could re-flavor maybe one of the Jim Dragonborn, one of the new ones. I think they also get some type of telekinesis or telepathy too, and you could just reflavor it as some kind of weird space monster or something.
Yeah. Same thing for Kalistar too. They get some sort of
Sure,
sonic features that, and Kalistar pretty much just look human, and you can flavor it however you want. So yeah. Oh, and they're bringing up Simic hybrids and stuff like that. Yeah, we're gonna be getting into some of the other settings in a bit, but we're gonna tackle this bigger topic because I think with this class, it's people should be aware of it. And so the question is, with the depiction of self-harm being very prevalent in the class, to the point where the imagery is literally on the cover of the class. You guys look it on D&D Beyond. What are ways for playgroups to ditch this and reflavor it and change the mechanics, but still be faithful to the mechanics of using power at a cost, but don't want to have their character hurting themselves on a narrative level?
I can take this first because my answer won't be incredibly long. Just reading like in the beginning where it says Hunter's Bane, I'm just going to kind of read through D&D Beyond. I'm just going to replace two words. It says the Hunter's Bane also empowers your body to control and shape Hemocraft's magic. I'm going to go for just something really basic. I'm just going to say fate. Just, it's your fate to, you come across creatures. It's by fate. Your life paths were meant to cross, kind of thing. So I'm going to say fate craft magic. I don't know if that's a word, but it is today. And then
That's
using
awesome.
and then using your own life's energy is the next one I replace. So just when you use these, I mean, you're not losing blood. You're not. I think one of the things was like really graphic that you're like digging into your wound to get the blood out of your wound to be able to craft your magic. I just think using your life's energy, just having some somatic components, just part of your being, or maybe a memory or something like that is what you give up, whether it be temporarily or permanently. But I think you could combine those. They're very similar to Key. For monks, I know Key monks use a lot with their inner energy, but this will be more fate based and their life energy.
I like that. What do you think, Riker?
I have opinions on this. First, so with self-harm, obviously it's something that you want to bring up at your table. Obviously it's something you want to be careful with other people. Obviously, if it's something that's gone through it in the past, you probably want to avoid that to trigger them.
Yeah.
However, I do think it kind of ironic that when we play Dungeons and Dragons, a war-based game or a combat-based game, that we're okay with hurting other people, but we draw the line at cutting ourselves. So it's an interesting narrative that we go by. So it's just, I think it's all contextual, right? Where it's the purpose and the reason that we're doing it. In this world, we're hurting other people for good. We're hurting other people to bring about the best outcome. And so to me, that's how I prefer to look at this self-harm. I prefer to look at it as, because of the reason that I'm doing it, it's completely different, right? We don't avoid hurting other people in D&D because people might be sensitive about that. It's because when you go into a game like D&D, that's almost the expectation. And that's where the self-harm comes in. It's an expectation that you put at the table. Like, this is an element that will be coming. If you don't like that, leave. If you don't like combat with other people, leave. So yeah, it's just, I play a blood hunter and I'm cutting myself to invoke this blood magic because of the purpose and the good that is going to come out of it, essentially. That said, I think it is, Wally did bring up, and again, if people disagree with me, awesome, good, right? And there may be some points that I am not thinking of. But Wally brought up a good point where it's life energy, right? It's not just blood, it's not hit points. Like the hit points in your D&D character sheet is not representative of how much life you have. It's like how sturdy you are in the battlefield, how much energy do you have before you go unconscious. It's not how much damage you can take until you're dead in that case. So yeah, it's can be taken from your constitution, your energy, to stay up, to stay awake, I guess. So and here I'm rambling. I'll let you guys go, but that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, for me, obviously we don't want to use aspects or play with certain. At least I know at my table it comes up, but and a level of respect players are going to have with each other because it's the DM and the relationship and a level of trust everybody needs to build. The reason I'm not big on the Blood Hunter is a lot of this because how much the self harm aspect and the imagery used to promote this thing is too connected with real world issues. And this is something that's coming up in a lot of 5th edition stuff, and that's why people are moving away from it. You have a game that's built on, while even though you brought up the fact Riker was we're pretty much causing harm to others, there's the fantasy behind certain things. We're leaning heavily more into the fantasy realm of a lot of our stuff, and you've pretty much moving away from a lot of real world narrative and conflict that was very, very common or very, very okayed with in back in the day that isn't necessarily good now. And this is what happens with the Blood Hunter. It's using this self harm, and there's different ways to actually play with the narrative of taking on dark power and having it come at a cost. So, and it's the same thing why we're not really seeing slavery in the game, because people just don't want to interact with these narratives anymore, and it's because there's a lot more. Not so much because in general everybody understands slavery is terrible and how to use it in your game. What you guys do at your table, you want to use those narratives fine as long as everybody has understanding. But in the greater aspect of it, you're having stream games, you're putting this stuff in the books in print. When you're dealing with these sort of problematic themes, whoever's writing it isn't necessarily going to be the best person to write it. Isn't, and it's not going to flavor or translate into making sure that the message is clear enough. And I think this is issue with the Blood Hunter. This is something we've seen in 3 blood-based classes that they put out for Critical Role, which is Blood Hunter, Blood Magic or Blood Magic Wizard, and then a Blood Domain Cleric. And they're all using the same thing. It makes sense within the in Critical Role, but they're not necessarily done with the mindset of hyper fantasy, and also not done with the mindset of maybe this is going to be something that does affect a portion of our audience that they might not want to interact with in a way that is beneficial. Not that you can't play with these themes, it's just the way you present them, and the way you present them does a lot more to how to form your opinion on it. And Blood Hunter really harkens back to for me, seeing like old imagery of just older content that just really didn't care how it was presented. It just is, and you're just going to accept it. And that's not necessarily the case, especially me, POC, seeing how my culture and how narratives and themes have played out throughout the history of D&D, coming into the game a lot later, and now seeing that change and be like, hey, some of these stuff isn't cool. You know, we should change it for the better. Rich says this usually ties back into the importance of session 0, setting up boundaries for the playgroups. Yeah, and it's session 0. And some ideas for me on changing the narrative, while still keeping intact with the mechanics. Go hyper fantasy with it. Use your soul. The concept of the soul is integral to the big meta of Dungeons and Dragons lore, to the point where every major player in the multiverse is after the souls of the people or of the humanoids on the material plane, and you're using a fraction of that. What does that mean to these bigger players, and what does that mean for your character if you're giving up a little bit of that your own soul And are these other bigger players now going to try to come in and save you because they want your soul, and you're kind of giving it away. You're doing some stuff that you're not supposed to be doing. You're disrupting the balance of how the multiverse works for D&D. And another thing, Wally brought it up, but it reminded me of Taskmaster, at least in the comics, not in the Black Widow movie. Sorry, but Black Widow movie, Taskmaster, nowhere close to the comic. They're in the comic, Taskmaster, in order for him to use his powers to mimic other characters, he gives up a piece of his memory. So this can be something your character is doing as they're leveling up. They're kind of remembering and falling back into their footsteps of their old life, but in order to kind of like use some of this stuff, they're actually also throwing away some of it, and they're kind of losing their thought and their mind of their actual memories, and that can be why they take on some of the pain. Yeah, it's not. There's a lot of ways you can get away from the physical harm, and I think looking at it and either trying to play with a hyper fantasy or playing with concepts that kind of play with the idea of giving up something important for power is more to lean into the narrative instead of just what they show on the cover of the Blood Hunter. And then we got some others. Stephen Harris, similar tone, but without as much problematic elements for the flavor of the Blood Hunter. Someone who conjure powers from horrifying source which deals psychic damage to them. Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, I thought of like a chronic empath, where they're empathic to the fact that when they cause damage, they too feel it. Would be interesting. There's a meme, I guess, among my community called guilt damage, just taking guilt damage. And essentially that's what it is, right? Where you're a pacifist and you do what you have to do, but it takes, kind of like what you said, just a little part of your soul with it, taking psychic damage or guilt damage when you do it.
Yeah. And just specifically for this stream, I have resources for people down in the description for those that are dealing with self-harm or have people that they know that deal with self-harm. Resources on how to help you and to reach out, so you can find them in the description. It's something that's very, very important. And my last note on this for those that want to play this class or DMs want to allow it but not necessarily sure, session 0, ongoing session 0s, and continue talking about it, and making sure everybody at the table is okay with it, because even it's not that you want to be overzealous with it either. Some people are a little bit more comfortable with it, even if they are dealing with it, but it's just more so understanding and the level and having understanding where people are at with this, and respecting each other at the table is really what it comes doing to. It's just making sure everything's doing, because at the end of the day, you're there to play any sort of tabletop RPG to have fun, to escape. And if this doesn't allow you to escape, then it's perfectly fine to also not allow it at your table. Yep. All right. So we're gonna get into. Let's see. We got 2 more questions I want to ask. So this one's gonna go jumping into. We did some subclass discussion a little earlier, but we're gonna go into some of the subclasses again and how they can reflect how you can better use them as and reflavor them or change them to help kind of form your character. So the subclasses are all various forms of forbidden magic or forbidden power that your character is taking on for the good fight. What inspiration, sources, or ideas can people look to so that they can improve their roleplay or flesh out their character's background or personality?
I'm just gonna say YouTube. That's that's how I get most of my inspiration and things like that, is just watching YouTube videos about the topics that I want to learn about. There's a lot of great character builds out there that discuss whatever class that you want to play. When I'm going, Blood Hunter aside, if I'm going in to play a class or to multi-class into something, YouTube's the first place I go, and I just watch every video on it and just take notes. That's going to be my answer on that. Really nice and quick.
What do you got? What do you got, Riker? I know you probably have like a million ideas popping up in your head right now.
No. But seriously, like these two do have like awesome builds that they should check out, and I feel like that too not only gives ideas, because I don't do build videos, or I haven't yet, but it gives one ideas and two like the know-how in order to go about that. Because mechanics can be a little complicated for some people, and it's easier to kind of follow a guideline. So yeah, absolutely. Check out videos like theirs and videos like other YouTubers out there. I'm sure there are a few. There the only one or the singular thing that popped into my head was just using the theme that you're doing for a blood hunter and finding feats and backgrounds to fit it. One specifically comes to mind of the haunted one background. The haunted one background really leans into the occult and stakes that you put in vampires' chests and manacle like monster hunter stuff. But also feats like Eldritch what is it, Eldritch Initiate or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just those darker element feats to really flesh out that theme if you're going for that.
Yeah. For me, in terms of looking outside of D&D and you're just trying to figure out what kind of personality character you want to play, we've brought up The Witcher enough that you probably should watch The Witcher. It's really, I still haven't even watched it, but if I want to play Blood Hunter, I'm probably going to watch The Witcher for a bit and kind of get in the mindset. I think from me being a comic book nut, Blade is probably another character you can probably draw inspiration from. Taking on a little bit of aspects, reflavoring it, like we talked about, changing some of the ideas to be more geared towards vampiric. And you can just play Blade. Blade pretty much is a Dhampir. That's really what he is, and he fits perfect as a blood hunter, a person that has dark power that hunts those with the similar powers, because they're doing evil stuff. I think Ghost Rider might be another great one you can draw upon too, because he again is taking on this dark power to cause to seek vengeance, to do some good, to hunt down the bad guys. And that's just Marvel. I'm trying to think. There's a ton of them in DC are very, very similar. So it's just drawing on comic books, drawing on stuff you've probably seen on TV, in terms of like Marvel, DC, and stuff you're probably going to be seeing on in the theater soon, especially with Marvel. Moon Knight's coming to mind too. That's another character that has could be reflavored as a blood hunter. Certain aspects of it, taking on like Profane Soul. A Moon Knight is pretty much could be a Profane Soul. So just really draw upon your media. It's draw upon the stuff. I know there's kind of a streak in amongst the community. It's like, no, don't make up your own thing. Be this unique butterfly. But the reality is, a lot of ideas and stuff have been done in media. Period. That's just how it is. Draw from it, use it, because how you play it and how you build it is where the uniqueness comes from. Not.
Mind if I add a few more? You mentioned some specific characters.
Go for it.
Mind if I throw a few more in there?
Go for it.
So Order of the Lycan. The first thing I think of is Lycans, and the movie Underworld was really inspirational for me. I could see any of those being a Order of the Lycan type of a character. Ghost Slayer, and I'm surprised you didn't mention this, Josh. Kaya, the Planeswalker from Magic the Gathering.
That's true.
Kaya has the abilities to go in. I can never say this. Incorporate. Yeah, has the ability to go into the ethereal
shift
plane a little bit, just like that. Yeah, shift. There you go.
She could shift between little planes.
She's hunted down some ghosts, I believe. Is that Brago? Maybe Uncle Carl. I forget the ghost names, but Kaya from Magic the Gathering would be perfect for a Ghost Slayer. Mutant wise, I also thought of the Incredible Hulk or the Jekyll and Hyde. I think Riker mentioned Jekyll and Hyde in his video, and that's a perfect thing. You just got these bottles.
Oh, we lost Wally. There we go.
My bad.
There we go. Yeah, you're back. Okay, cool.
Got these bottle of tonics that do a bunch of different things, and then Profane Soul. I might be a little bit off on this, but I thought about Star Wars as far as like
Mm,
the Jedi, and especially the dark side.
Hmm.
You know, you've
that's
got
true.
your Sith Lord, and you're gaining all this power, but at what cost? Now have to do what they say and stuff. So, and then mechanically, I forgot to include this as well, mainly because I didn't scroll down on my notes far enough. But RPG is it RPGbot.net always has like really good information if you're looking mechanically to build characters and want to find out what's good or what's bad. RPGbot.net also has the Blood Hunter class.
Yeah, they're super big on optimization. I use that site as cross reference to make sure that, not because I'm trying to present you guys optimized options, just make sure that something's viable, so that I'm not just giving you guys an option that doesn't suck, that at least feels good when you're playing it. But
Mm.
I recommend RPG.net. Um, is it RPGbot.net? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
RPGbot.
yeah. I recommend that. It's a really, really, really awesome website with a bunch of guides. So that'll help you if
Yeah.
you're really more into the optimization side. That it's a good website. All right.
I think two more that I thought of was just with the elements of like self harm and in imbuing power would be Attack on Titan.
Yep.
Would be one, and I think I think Mortal Kombat Kotal Khan or something like that. I think he has elements of that. But yeah, they're like you just search online about different movie tropes, you'll find stuff.
Yep. And then let's see. We had a couple of comments I wanted to bring up. So let's see. I think Seth Taylor had asked us if we have seen the combat wheelchair. The author behind that mechanic for 5th edition, I believe they're converting it to Pathfinder, wrote I believe a subclass for the Blood Hunter using the combat wheelchair. I've seen the combat wheelchair.
Hey,
It's cool. It's something that's sorely needed in 5th edition, having any sort of representation, because anybody should be able to be a hero, regardless of how they look and how their condition is. And
is that you said you had that linked?
he didn't have it linked. Let me.
Ah,
Yeah. Let's see.
that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
So share Blood Hunter. I'll look it up right now, and I will link it to you guys when I can.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. And then also, somebody else asked the question. Stephen Harris brought up Van Helsing as another source of
Van Helsing,
inspiration.
really
Castlevania
good.
too. That just brings up Castlevania for me.
Oh,
Any
yes.
Absolutely.
Belmont, Alucard, all of them too. And it brings up another game, Devil May Cry. Dante, Virgil, the two characters from that. Because pretty much they are devils, or they have demonic power, and they're part devil, part human. So that's another thing. And then Stephen Harris also brings up the point, reiterating what I said: be a special butterfly, but for your table only. Play a character that hasn't been at your table if it doesn't matter if someone halfway around the world has already played a kleptomaniac rogue. True is true. Um, Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna link it to you guys in Discord really quick, so you guys can pull this up. All right. So this is what I found on the combat wheelchair. You guys can look, and then I'm gonna go to my last question. So this is gonna be the full flavor, or we're gonna look at different settings. So Blood Hunter is now a cornerstone of the Exandria setting, just like how the Artificer was for Eberron. But obviously, we can use the Artificer in any setting. So the big question is, what are some ideas on how we can fit the Blood Hunter in the other official 5th edition settings?
Snag this one first, Riker. I've got some ideas, so I can play off you.
I backing up to what we had seen with the Simic hybrid, I think is also a cool element. Because there are it's Ravnica, I'm 90% sure. With Ravnica, obviously it's a very experimental type of process, easily flavored into blood magic. That's what I would probably do for that. Um, it's so much depends. Let's see what other ones are out there.
We got
Theros. Is there any blood magic in like a Greek mythology? Man, get Dale Kingsmill on the phone.
yeah, I think when it's something like Theros, you can really just with flavor and fit it under a lot of the gods of death or black aligned gods. I could
Yeah.
see a lot of these fitting with obviously Erebos, the god of death. Then there is the god it's based off of Karen, but it's not. I forgot his name. It's the black white one. I don't know if you remember Wally. Oh, Athreos. There we go. Athreos.
Chris, yeah.
And then there's Farika, who is the god of poisons and cures, which all these three pretty much align with blood huntery things you can do. Farika can be the mutant and using potions and cures and salves and poisons to kind of help out.
Oh, okay. I just looked it up and I'm reminded. So in Greek mythology, there's something called ichor, or ichor is the blood of the gods. It's an ethereal fluid that is used for like immortality. And so like that would be so cool to have your blood hunter in a Theros setting where they're more divine in nature, and that the blood that they're bending or using is not like the red blood, but this divine ichor that flows through all of us. That would be cool.
That would be really neat.
That reminds me of Phyrexian oil
Yeah.
in the Magic the Gathering setting. That would get into
Nice.
some crazy stuff. Yeah, no, pretty much turning your character into a Terminator. Yeah. What's some
I got
ideas you
a
got, Wally?
few. So I broke it down by subclass because I feel
Ooh.
we already discussed, I think previously, that maybe we discussed this off air, that the subclasses, I mean, they seem a bit clunky as far as fitting together. So I could definitely see these on different ones. I'll just read through them. So Order of the Lycan, and I think someone already mentioned it in the chat as well. It's a definite shoe-in for Ravenloft, or if they ever come up with an Innistrad campaign setting. I think anything like that is definitely a shoe-in for the Order of the Lycan. The Ghost Slayer easily could be adapted to the Forgotten Realms. Candlekeep Mysteries, I think, would be fun if you're playing a Candlekeep Mysteries game to have a Ghost Slayer type of a character. And I'm also going to bring up, Ravnica, as we discussed with like Kaya, and Greyhawk. I was looking up Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I guess, was based in Greyhawk. And Ghosts of Saltmarsh, I think, has like 13 different campaigns, and some of it has spirits and ghosts. So Ghost Slayer makes sense there as well. The Mutant, of course, as Riker mentioned, is definitely a Ravnica shoe-in with the Simic hybrid. But I also thought, with the crazy scientists and or crazy alchemists, I thought Eberron would be a place for that, where it's a little bit more technology advanced and you could mix things. And then Ravenloft as well. You could also see some weird alchemists in Barovia or Ravenloft there. And then the final one, Profane Soul, I have Forgotten Realms. Once again, I think it would fit fine there. Theros, I thought it'd be okay in Theros. And then I also included Planescape for the Profane Soul. I don't know a lot about Planescape, but I think it could definitely be one that would could travel to different planes and stuff. So that's what I had.
All right.
Do we have one for Dark Sun?
oh man, trying to think.
Sorry, in every chat, there's always that one person that mentions Dark Sun.
Yeah, Dark Sun.
I was actually looking, and I couldn't pin any of them to Dark Sun, so I'd be definitely interested to hear what you guys say.
Yeah, Dark Sun and Spelljammer are like the meme the meme answers for everything or questions. So those are the two ones. Spelljammer, not so much this year. I think Spelljammer and Dragonlance are 100% a go by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But Dark Sun, I don't know.
Maybe. One more too. By the way, is it the Ghost Slayer that can go to the ethereal plane? That brand new book, Through the Radiant Citadel, isn't it going to be like established in the ethereal plane? So maybe that's an option.
Do their powers not work there? like they phase and they're just like.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
shift an inch over. That's pretty much what they go.
They shift into the material plane.
Yeah.
They're like, oh shoot.
Okay. That's
all
true.
Around here.
Okay. All right. So I have a lot of answers for all these because the the Blood Hunter actually fits pretty much in everything. There's always going to be a way for the thematics of using power at a price, at a cost that fits in. Even though the Blood Hunter does this in a more rangery angle for it, Ravenloft, everything fits. Like you're just it's perfect in Ravenloft. It's just you don't really have to change anything. You can just tie it to one or two factions. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. If you guys don't have that book and are going to play Blood Hunter, that's probably the perfect book to pick up because there's a lot of sections on factions and actually sections on the narrative horror. Excuse me, the narrative horror behind the class or the behind the domains of dread that you can tie your class and your origin to, because the demi planes of dread are all little pocket dimensions of different horror tropes. So that's actually really good book to draw inspiration from. It's probably one of the better 5th edition books for it. Forgotten Realms. I kind of lump Forgotten Realms with kind of everything, just generic fantasy. It's like Exandria. It's there if you need it to be there. There isn't really anything that you can really, I feel that you can pull. I think the only thematic thing you can really draw from in lore, maybe you want to tie your character to, since you are using dark power, maybe this is either tied to the Netherese, which is like an ancient civilization of magic casters. And maybe this was a form of forbidden magic that they had access to. Or if you want to tie this to what it's the red mages, and I can't remember. Oh, Thay, there it is. Thay. They're tied to dark magic and necromancy. They're the stereotypical evil wizard villains. And maybe your character is from Thay. You're misunderstood. You don't want ties to it, but you use this power to kind of do good, even though you're using bad stuff. So, let's see. In Theros, like I mentioned already, pretty much any black aligned god. I even could say Mogus, the god of slaughter, might be tied to some of these guys. Some of these too, especially more of the warrior based ones. I believe Mogus does have some sort of his fanatics do use some sort of blood magic, and in some sense for rituals and stuff. Not so much sacrifice, but it's tying that to the concept of war would be another thing. Freaka, a mutant, is perfect for this one. And Erebos and Athreos, Profane or Order of the Ghost Slayer, since both of them are wanting to get souls and taking them back to the underworld. That's what would fit. Eberron, we've already said mutant for that setting, and I believe I can't remember the house. It's one of the dragon marks, the one that the mark of making, or not making, the mark of handling, which was the one that makes super soldier or super bred animals and might make super soldier humanoids. Mutant looks pretty good for that. And then I believe I want to say Profane Soul for one of the elven tribes, not tribes, but elven civilizations in the setting too. The one, and I don't remember the name because there's like 3 different ones, but it's the one that has a ghost council, like similar to Ravnica, of ancestors that they draw their power from. So there's that one. Strixhaven, Witherbloom is probably a good fit for some of these. Mutant, let's see, Profane Soul. I think Ghost Slayer would be good for a Lorehold, because they are dealing with spirits. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to do that, because maybe there's some evil spirits that they need to get rid of, and they send this Lorehold Blood Hunter instead to go kind of handle the evil spirits that they're trying to contact. And then Ravnica, Simic Hybrid. Simic is good for Mutant, like we said. Then a lot of these kind of fit within Golgari. A lot of these fit, but specifically they also fit into Rakdos, the Blood Witches for Rakdos. There's a couple cards there. They're kind of like these mid to high level, primarily female characters in the ranks of Rakdos. They kind of help Rakdos govern his guild, and yeah, they are perfect for blood hunters. They are legitimately using blood to do their magic.
What about Orzhov for the Ghost Slayer? Would you consider Orzhov?
Orzhov for Ghost Slayer, and I'm trying to think.
Is it for Mutant? Maybe with the chaos of the
I could see it. You can
Mhm.
reflavor it a certain way, especially if you're going to tie like elemental elements to it. I think that's the best way to lean into it. Um, Simic just makes it a lot easier. It could just be like, well, I'm growing a
It's a mix
tentacle.
of yeah.
I'm growing a crab claw. I'm growing something weird for drinking this potion. So, but yeah, there's a lot. I can probably make a whole video just on fitting things into this setting. But yeah, it's a lot. Like there's a lot. Pretty sure what it comes down to. There is a place for everything that you want to play in the game, depending on what you said you're wanting to do. So I have at it. Go for it. All right. Any last thoughts?
If you favorite, I guess. We already discussed that, didn't we?
A little
Yeah,
early,
I
yeah.
don't have any last thoughts.
All
Oh,
right.
not really.
So last thoughts then. Do you guys actually like the class, and will whether you do or don't, will you allow it at your table?
Yes, Joss. Yes, I love this class. I do. I think I enjoy the elements of it. I know that it's not for everybody. I enjoy playing it. I would, but I always bring it up at the table. I always do. I'm like, hey, this is in the world. Is that okay? Essentially, but I think that we should do that with any homebrew. I don't have a lot of homebrew full classes that I pull up the table, but it's definitely one that I enjoy. But that's just because I'm a part of a very vast and very dedicated fan base.
Yeah. Fast growing, man. You're exploding. Great. It's good to see you have a very very dedicated group in your Discord. It's very
Absolutely.
active. So if you guys want to find another community you guys want to join in, I recommend going into Clerk Corners. Just share character ideas. There's a lot of narrative based discussion that's going on in there, so it's very fun to see.
I was talking about Critical Role, but that too. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And last thoughts, Wally.
Yeah. So as far as allowing it in my game, if I'm a DM, I would allow it. I mainly play online and I use my D&D Beyond account. So while I like a lot of homebrew classes and subclasses, especially Kobold Press has put together some really good ones, they're not on my D&D Beyond account, but the Blood Hunter is. So if a player wanted to play it, I would be fine with that. Absolutely. I would like to play one myself again, as previously mentioned. I think I would like to play the Ghost Slayer. I think that looks like a lot of fun. As far as whether or not I like the class, I do like it, but it does seem to have some issues with me. And like just re-preparing for this, I did do the video on the Order of the Lycan 2 years ago, and then I started watching it, and I remember very little of it. And I think I mentioned off stream that it reminds me more of a first edition Pathfinder or a D&D 3.5 type of a class, just because of how much more complicated it is than the rest of them. So I do like it, but I think it does have some. I think it can be a little bit too much, especially for newer players. I don't think I would encourage newer players to jump right into a Blood Hunter, but yeah, I like it.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
me, I personally don't like the mechanic. Not that they're like terrible; they're probably better than what I would put together for a homebrew. But it's just it's not as streamlined as it could be. I think that's like my big hang up with it. Like you're using a lot. It has a lot of similar issues of pre-Tasha's Ranger, where you're using your bonus action for a lot of different things, and you're not going to be able to do all the cool things immediately compared to other classes. Like if you're a barbarian, rage is on, your subclass features are on, and on turn one, and the Blood Hunter is very similar to the Ranger. Well, nope, I need to use first turn to set this bonus action to do something, and then the next turn I can use my bonus action to do this. And by the time you get to your third turn, half the combat's already over with. You killed everything off there, and then finally you can do your cool combo. And that's kind of how the Blood Hunter feels for me too. But that said, though, I will not ban it from my table within reason, right? If people do find issue with some of the thematics of it, the narrative behind it, okay, then it's off the table. But if one of my players is like, I want none of the options in this game officially lets me do this story, can I play this instead? It's at my table. So, and I
Yeah,
think go for it, Will.
I just have one more question.
Mhm.
Going off of that, what do you think the power level of this is? Is this a balanced 5e class, or is it more powerful than the official 5e classes?
Ooh, I
And I know
don't
it's complex, but I don't know about power level.
power level. I don't know. I've never been one to be like to care too much about power level because I think power is relative to your table. DM has every tool in their box to really just be like, well, if these guys are doing like 20, 30 damage in a round, just wiping the floor, well, I'm gonna add a little extra HP, or I'm gonna put enemies that are a little bit tougher to kind of threaten them. That's what I've had to do at my table too. In terms of baseline, I think it's okay. Um, I think the last few updates have put it a little bit more in line with some of the other options, like in does a D6 on its attacks for unarmed, and it really only benefits if you're going to be doing those unarmed attacks to get the extra attack, which is in line with the Beastmaster. No, not Beastmaster, Beast Barbarian, who does the same thing. I just think the little extra damage you get from the Crimson Right pushes it a little bit. Yeah, and then Seth Taylor, it's more powerful than the monk. My iPhone is more powerful than the monk. Uh, monk, man. You guys haven't seen the discussion about the monk. I did that one a few months ago. That's a definitely go check that one out with Indestructible Boy and or Ross Slicer. We dug into that one. But yeah, monk is near dear to my heart, but oh, it needs work. All right, and then we had one more question from the chat. And then after that, we're gonna head out. What races are the best you think for the flavor and build on Blood Hunt? Mechanically or narratively? Right.
Riker, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking narratively. My first thought, honestly, was so back we had a Unearthed Arcana about the races of Spelljammer, and we had the Plasmoid race, and I was just thinking, what would be super cool is to have a blood elemental that you can play, just a big blob of blood that's a blood hunter, and like you're talking about life essences, just like taking part of yourself to imbue this magic. I just think that would be a narratively fun thing to do. That was my first thought.
Yeah. I have a few narrative options. Shifter. For like in Hex Blood is actually probably another good one if you want to have like some sort of dark magical ties, especially to hags. Dampier for the obvious vampiric stuff. Pretty much anything in the Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. I even think there's a case for the Reborn, whether you want to flavor it as a Frankensteinish monster or a zombie. Like that's another way to do it. I think Warforge might actually be pretty sweet if you do it a certain way. You're powered by this like sort of actually the way you can reflavor the whole Blood Hunter class is this is a life battery that's in you, and you actually have to draw on it to use your powers. So you're on a limited lifespan. So that'd be one way. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Stephen Harris, your table goes in for some races are evil style play, half orcs, tieflings, chainlings are fun options. That's true. ASMR. Yeah, you guys have some really good ideas. All right.
And going into it, I would probably just pick variant human right off the bat, but but yeah, I don't think there's a race you can go wrong with. The Blood Hunter really does open itself for creativity, and I think you could develop a story or a backstory using any different type of race, and maybe even tie it into their cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. Blood Hunter doesn't really have anything that I mechanically can see that another class pushes or another race pushes in a direction, which is nice because there are some official classes in fifth edition where some races are just like, yeah, that's your go-to option, and Blood Hunter is nice enough where you kind of flex. I think Tasha's variant rules and stuff kind of help alleviate this a little bit, but yeah, I don't really see a mechanically optimal option outside of the usual that variant human is just going to give you the free feed anyway. Yeah. So other than that, again, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Riker. Thank you, Wally D. Where can they find you guys?
You can find me on YouTube. My channel is Wally DM, and I actually do have a character build that I did 2 years ago, the Order of the Lycan, and it's probably got about 12,000 views on it, so it did okay. If you're interested in playing an Order of the Lycan, go ahead and check it out on my channel. That'd be great. And I also have, in addition to YouTube, I also have a book, the Journal of Puzzle Encounters, that's available on Drive-Thru RPG. And thanks for having me.
Alrighty. And then Riker, where can they find you?
Yeah, the Cleric Corner at all media again had a video out this morning just about character ideas for Blood Hunter, how to reflavor, reskin it. I think last I checked it had 50 views, but it just came out today. So 12,000 soon. It'll be at 12,000 soon.
Yeah. And to links to both of these gentlemen's channels and videos that they just mentioned are in the description below. So this one is like a good pinpoint for Blood Hunter resources. I put out a video a week ago for Blood Hunter for Order of the Lycan build you can check out. And then this week I put out a multi-class build for the Fey Warlock, a Divine Soul Sorcerer multi-class at the request of a patron. Philip D, shout out to you for submitting that one. That was fun to kind of figure out that puzzle because all he wanted me to do was figure out which he wanted a Warlock multi-class, but he said use Divine Soul Sorcerer, and then that was it. So tying it into the world of Exandria, I found a narrative reason why these two classes or subclasses would fit together. So definitely go check that out. It was definitely a puzzle, but a fun one. And as always, support these gentlemen's channels. Go like, comment, subscribe. You can support them all both directly, and you can support this channel directly going through Patreon. Links to everything is in the description. And yeah, that is it. Again, thank you guys for joining me. Next week, I'm not sure what we're going to be doing, but we're going to be doing something hopefully fun. Probably jump back into some class narrative stuff. I anticipating the first week of April, I might be streaming every day. I have the whole week off. So from the 4th to the 8th, midday, I probably will be streaming every day. And it won't be Dungeoneers Pack Lives. It will probably be, I'm trying to finish my Luchador class. So it'll be a 5th edition class for the game that's based off the mythology and tropes of the Luchador. So it'd be a grappling martial class. So it's close to done, but I need to get some subclasses done, and then it'll be open for test. So maybe we'll see. Still iffy. Again, thank you guys, and until next time, you guys have a good one and take care.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.